Dr. Fickner, I'm going to start with you. As we've heard, the alternatives to WEP and GPO have been considered in the past, but some of these solutions relied on data that the administration, Social Security Administration, just didn't have. As a former deputy commissioner of SSA, does the SSA have the data now that it needs to implement a better version of WEP and GPO?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. The answer in part is yes. So we now have at least 35 years of history for everyone's earnings data, so they can do a better job if we implement a proportional formula to help with a better implementation of WEP and GPO and Social Security. Where they still fall short, though, is data reporting. So for current beneficiaries who are subject to WEP or GPO, they rely on reporting from the beneficiary, voluntary reporting, and that's where we get some improper payments. And the only way to fix that is through data exchange issues that would require some legislative intent or to change the formula to proportional. So when you think about what you want to do with WEP GPO, if you're not going to do an outright repeal, then one is to do a proportionary formula so everyone gets the same formula and you can the Social Security can adjust and modify and administer the program fairly for everybody. Or you've got to do something with data exchanges that the states and pension programs report to SSA who's covered and how much, and that way they can actually administer the program.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gressler, given how close the retirement trust fund is to exhaustion, how important is it to make sure that any solution not only results in a fair benefit, but takes into account the lifespan of the trust fund and when its exhaustion date later this decade? And would ignoring this issue be fair to anybody here?
No, it wouldn't be fair, and we need to address the program comprehensively because it will be insolvent. That is under current law. It's not under passing any budget that cuts benefits. It's under current law. 9 years from now, across the board, 23% cuts, whether you are 99 years old and you had a low income your whole life, or whether you're a billionaire and you just retired. It's going to be across the board cuts. It's a closed system. So anything that you do that increases the cost today, which the WEP and GPO repealing them would be $183 billion in added costs and take another year off the solvency of the program, that's going to hurt everyone. And it's going to be the most significant for the people who are relying on Social Security for the largest portion of their income. Okay,
thank you. Dr. Blayhouse, you did a great job of kind of explaining, why this was done, and we appreciate that. We've heard now that we've either got to deal with data exchanges or we've got to change the formula. The ultimate goal here has to be able to treat every American fairly and to equalize what's been going on here. It is patently unfair for somebody to benefit more than their fellow American, but it is equally abhorrent that we penalize our fellow Americans. Given the difference between the two, or if you were in charge, can you explain, had you rather see a new formula or better use of the data exchanges? Which one do you think creates parity for our fellow Americans?
Well, I think you need a new formula, frankly. And I will say, first of all, big picture, the underlying problem here is basically how the underlying Social Security benefit formula works. We're talking about data limitations. The reason Social Security's benefit formula looks the way that it does is also because of data limitations. That basically it's a calculation that's based on your average earnings over your highest 35 years. Now, that's an issue that makes this whole state and local government employment WEP GPO issue complex, but that's not the only place where it arises. It also arises with people who immigrate halfway through their careers. It also arises with people who might share a household with a higher earner and are in and out of the workforce, but are making a lot of money when they're in the workforce, but the system thinks they're a low-income person. So there's a lot of problems that arise from that. So in a perfect world, you would have a different type of benefit formula, more like a private pensions, where you are accruing benefits with each annual year of earnings. And you can have a progressive formula to do that. Rather than as a function of your lifetime average earnings. So that's the underlying problem. And if you fix that, you wouldn't have to worry, frankly, about access to non-covered earnings and all of that. Now, short of that type of fundamental reform of Social Security's benefit formula, the next best thing you can do is to treat people equally as a function of their covered and non-covered earnings, which requires Social Security to have timely access to your non-covered earnings records. In some respects, it's actually easier than what Social Security has to do now, Because right now, the GPO is a function of your non-covered pension, right? So you need the data exchange for SSA to get access to that information. If you had a properly functioning WEP and GPO, Social Security wouldn't need that. They would just need timely access to your non-covered earnings records, which they've had since 1982.
Thank you, and thank you all for your answers. Again, as we move through this, I think the desire here, again, is to find the fair way through this so that no American is disadvantaged by this, or by the flaws that are in this program, and to be thoughtful about how we do this with one of our most beloved, cherished, and needed programs. And with